Ultrakill is the game that most people have recommended me to try out, so I did a blind run, I have some thoughts, and here we go. Now, Ultrakill is still in early access and is split into 3 acts, with only the first 2 being available at the time of recording this video. Today, we'll be going through the whole experience through the campaign level by level, so spoiler warning, although I'd say this game is a bit more about the action than the narrative or any particular surprises, but if you don't want to be spoiled about bosses or one particular puzzle that took me a little while to solve, then this is your warning to look away. The first thing I am faced with is 4 difficulty options, with 2 being labeled as accessible and 2 being labeled as hard, which I appreciate. They definitely went out of their way to make this a game anybody can play despite what it is. I chose the standard difficulty because I like playing the intended difficulty first before considering upping or lowering it to something more along my skill level. That said, the standard level is typically a good choice for me anyways. Now, I've never played any Doom games, but I'm pretty sure this is what you would call a Doom-like from the little bits of footage I've seen. Maybe there was a game before Doom that would better describe it. Let me know in the comments. All you really need to know is that Ultrakill is fast-paced with loads of action. I'm dropped down a hole at the start where this barrier is in the way. I don't have a weapon, but I do have a fist, and after a button prompt teaches me how to punch, I destroy one wood panel, only to discover I need to hit all the panels at different heights. There's a little more tutorial, including a room with enemies who just stand around for you to kill and get acquainted with. At the end of the tutorial, you're given a title screen with a little lead up, and the whole time you have full control since you're moving to the next level, and I just love how this is executed. I don't have to just watch the title screen, I get to play it. Once the screen is gone, things get going, with the same enemies from before spawning in, but this time they actually attack, and the first room was definitely a bit jarring as I grappled with how fast everything moved. I've been playing Dark Souls and everything is slow in that game, so playing Ultrakill where I might as well be Sonic with a gun is quite the change of pace. Right outside of the room is the first checkpoint, which is really nice to see, as I'm sure there will be plenty of deaths in my near future. Just beyond it, I'm taught that there is glass in this game that can be broken. Hold right mouse to charge. Oh, okay. The next room has nothing but glass platforms, which I actually struggled with for a bit because this was the first room and there were no walls or guardrails. I was free to walk off the edges, and with how fast everything moved, I walked off this platform time and time again. I can't. With practice, the lack of barriers, more or less, became a non-factor, but getting used to it in the first place was tough. What got me through the room, though, was remembering that the glass could break, and I was able to shoot out the glass below the enemy's feet as they approached me, negating the need to fight here at all. Oh, so the thing the game just taught me was applicable soon after. Who would have thought of such a thing? In the room after that, I'm introduced to a new enemy type that shoots at me, but the projectiles are few and far between and rather slow-moving. I never really viewed this enemy type as a threat in any way. More often than not, they were free healing, because in Ultrakill, you heal by killing enemies and bathing in their blood, thus encouraging you to get up close and personal rather than ping them from far away. In a room a little further down, I learned how to jump dash, but not because the game told me how, but because there was some enemies on a platform just out of reach and I wanted to get to them. Sure, I could have just shot them, but I wanted to punch their faces, so after a single jump failed, it occurred to me I should try dashing in midair, and sure enough, it worked. The end of the level has a boss who's just a big face with these weird spider-looking legs coming out of him. He shoots a lot, of course, but I was able to take him down first try, and good thing, too, because this guy is going to become a pretty regular enemy as I go along. Hey, then. This is something. It's like almost a spider guy. Oh, ouch! Well, that wasn't bad. Yes, punch his face. All he was a face. Though I must admit, he was one of the most annoying ones just because of his large health pool and the explosive projectile that could destroy me when I wasn't paying any attention. And that's the end of the first level. I got the D rank, which is pretty poor, but it's my first time with the game, so I didn't expect to get a good grade. Now, I'm not going to go through every level the same way I just did, because then this video would be way too long. We'll just focus on some of the highlights of the experience. At the beginning of the next level, I am faced with this console that you interact with in-game, rather than being a separate menu, which I think is just awesome. You come across this console at the end of every level, and it took some getting used to, but I do love how this doesn't pause anything or break the flow because you are in full control as you use it. I purchased a pistol variant, and at first I was a little confused as to how it was different outside of the color, but eventually I learned that the right click is what has changed, and I shoot a coin into the air, and if I hit the coin, then a homing bullet will strike the enemy closest to it, and will do maybe 3 times the damage, maybe more. If you can get on a roll with this thing, it's easily the best pistol in my opinion. Oh, and the ability of the default gun is a charge shot that pierces so you can line up enemies, and that's great. The second level wasn't particularly different, but I did get an A grade on it, so that was neat. In the third level, I encountered my second boss, the sword machine, and this was the first time I tried to consistently use the coin gun, but I struggled with it quite a bit and ended up just shooting the boss in the face until he died. Who needs to shoot the target when I can just flip a coin? Oh, I don't have it. Oh, okay. Woo. Ouch. Oh, he's got a gun too. All right, I'm starting to like this weapon. I'm really starting to like that weapon. Actually, riveting content. I hope so. You dropped a shotgun, and in order to progress, you need to break this rock. And after a moment of brain fart, I remembered right-click and discovered the shotgun can shoot explosive shells. Oh, yeah. I'm not sure that anywhere outside of this level, the explosive shot is actually necessary to progress, and if you're too close to the explosion, you can hurt yourself, so I didn't really ever use that. The regular shotgun blasts were nice and could do damage, but it did seem that it needed to be at about melee range for it to really be effective. At which point I think it loses a lot of its value. Maybe it's just me and I didn't figure out how to use it best, but the shotgun was my least used weapon over the duration of the playthrough. The end of level 3 was a repeat of the same boss, and it would seem to me that it has more health and is more aggressive. Level 4 was really short, and level 5 is only a boss fight with a door that made it clear to me that I really am going to hell, and a statue called Cerberus suddenly starts moving. Wait, but isn't Cerberus the dog? Why am I being attacked by a statue? The battle was tough enough as I was fighting the one, but once it reached half health, the other statue in the room started moving and joined in on the fight, at which point it was nothing but chaos. Oh, where is he? There we are. Oh, okay. These guys were difficult, and another boss that'll become a regular enemy in the future. Although I don't recall the future ones using a stomping shockwave ability, so I guess they got nerfed, or I'm misremembering. Level 6 scared the bejesus out of me because it required basic puzzle solving. I thought I was playing a fast-paced shooter. Why are you making me use brain power? There are also these purple flying kamikaze enemies who I never figured out how to deal with. Them and the floating head were the hardest enemies for me. The great thing about this level is that I was gifted with the Gatling gun, or at least that's what I called it. Oh, yeah. I love this thing, and now I can feel like a true American as I clear out hell of every demon with a Gatling gun. The best part about it is that with right click, I can shoot a nail at an enemy, and wherever it lands, all my bullets will home in on that nail. So if I hit a tanky enemy with that nail, then I can tear it apart with the Gatling. On my way to the next level, the menu says I'm on my way to level 1-2, which has me real confused as to what everything I've done before has been. Do I get levels for each section of a level? Was all of that the 6 levels I thought I had done just one level? I'm actually unsure to this day, since sometimes the game would bring me down a level after every grade, but up to this point it hasn't. I don't know. It's weird. The next level is more of the same, but the one after that introduces the flamethrower enemy, and I have to amend everything I have said thus far. Flamethrowers killed me more than any other enemy. These guys terrify me and were always my first target whenever I was in a group of enemies. They also looked the coolest out of all of them, so I'm very conflicted. The boss at the end of this was called the Hideous Mass, and I have to agree with that name. Wasn't a very tough boss though. Nearly first tried it. Yeah, baby. There we go. Oh, what? Oh, I had him first try. I had you. But did take it down on the second attempt. There we go. A letter room full of lead, boys. I thought for sure I had him first try, and now we're struggling a little bit. This boss didn't become a regular enemy, although he would make an appearance every here and there. At the end of Limbo, I came to the only puzzle that I will be spoiling, and that's partially because I didn't even know there was a puzzle to solve here for the longest time. There were doors that led to several different rooms, one of which looked like it was a clue for some sort of puzzle, but after quite a bit of struggling, I find myself looking at a door that suggests I need to find blue skulls, and my eyes drift up to a stained glass window. Over it, squint my eyes and fire, and sure enough, the window breaks. Now that's just mean. I can actually appreciate a little trolling in video games, though I have some mixed feelings with this one because it did break the flow quite a bit. It's the one and only time in the game where I found myself stopped at some roadblock and was itching to shoot something again. On the bright side, my twin is on the other side of the stained glass, and this boss fight threw me for quite a loop at first. Oh my goodness. Okay, hold presses. This guy is just a better version of me, with the same weapons and everything, only he's a lot more competent with them than I am. Okay, calm down. Calm down. Calm down. Oh, I see what he's doing. Oh, he's actually using the same weapons. Just, you know, more effectively. This boss felt like the boss that is meant to force you to actually get good or get knowledgeable with your weapons. Not only are you shooting a smaller target, but you are also forced to fight against someone who knows your weapons either better or just as well as you. And I was scratching my head after several fights with this guy because I wasn't even coming close to winning and wasn't sure how to make the skill jump I needed to come out on top. But then I had a silly idea. What if I shot V2 with my homing nail right at the start and then spammed Gatling gun? I got a variant that doesn't shoot a nail itself, but does home in on the one that the first one shoots, and the variant can be shot for longer. So I stuck V2 with the nail and then stayed as close to him as possible so that way I could heal myself, and sure enough, this actually made the fight a bit of a joke. I wonder if that's actually a thing with all the bosses, that there's one strategy that makes them a pushover, you just have to find it. V2 was the only instance where this happened for me though, so who knows. The next level has this open area that I found psychologically horrifying because below me looks like Earth or something, but I'm pretty sure I'm in hell, and there's a massive creature with shining eyes walking on the surface. I wonder if I'll have to fight him later. The level after that one stumped me for a bit because I was supposed to shoot these electric boxes to open a door. Oh! It took me a while to even spot one of them, at which point I wondered what would happen if I shot it, and sure enough, it broke, and more enemies spawned trying to stop me. Dang, this game messes with my head. You never know if something is breakable or not. Later in that level, I'm gifted with a railgun, and this thing is so much fun. You basically just shoot it once, destroy whatever you hit, and then wait for it to recharge so you can shoot it again. It's awesome. 2 levels down the line and I'm in this Minecraft. 2 levels down and I'm in this minecart system when a giant fist appears out from the darkness. This actually took me several tries to get past because it's such a claustrophobic space and the 3D environment loses a dimension as going back and forward doesn't exactly help me with this one. At the end of the line, the corpse god makes an appearance, and sure enough, it was the creepy thing with the glowing eyes on the surface, and it actually made me super happy I'd predicted the boss fight. Railgun. Your fist is too mighty and big. What has happened? Oh, it's a black hole, I think. What the heck? Also, props to the game for setting it up so well. I love when environmental factors that you assume are just meant to be looked at end up being part of the game itself. Now, I haven't mentioned it yet, but there is a countering system in this game, and I always forget to use counters in any game that has them, and I'm often not good at using them anyways. This boss heavily relies on you getting good with counters, as his massive fists take up almost the entire screen trying to punch you in the face. I was never able to get the timing quite right, so I stubbornly tried to find another way to beat the boss, and sure enough, I was able to. Instead of countering the fists, it was actually possible to dash out of the way. It's just harder, probably, than countering actually is, but since I was able to dodge more reliably than I was able to counter, I managed to beat the boss using this strategy. That was the end of Lust, and the third part, Gluttony, is inside a stomach of some sort. Oh, I just realized the connection there. Oh my goodness, how did I not put the pieces together while playing? That went right over my head. I wasn't a big fan of these levels, but that's just because I don't like the fleshy, stomachy look in any game. The way they played was good though. The first part of Gluttony took a little while, but the end of Gluttony and the end of Act 1 brings me face to face with Gabriel, Judge of Hell, and somehow I think this game doesn't quite understand who the biblical archangel Gabriel is. Excuse me, good sir. This isn't biblically accurate. I want a refund now. Gabriel was a pretty tough boss though. He proved to be the hardest thus far, but the whole time I felt like I could beat him. I just needed to get good, and I'm not sure what is different with how Ultrakill handled it and how other games have done bosses, that maybe it is the whole time I could see I was improving or else better learning the pattern, and so I wasn't discouraged, or maybe it's because all the boss fights are pretty short and you respawn right at the boss room, so I'm able to do battle after battle without pausing in between, so no unnecessary running to the boss room. After quite a long struggle, I took him down, and that was Act 1, at which point I'm feeling pretty good and excitedly jump into Act 2, which we'll go over a bit more briefly. Act 2 seemed to me to have more environmental theming. Act 1 felt like just a bunch of hellish landscapes, while Act 2 started off with a desert. There were new enemies, and the sandy landscape was a nice change of pace. The first boss in Act 2 was some insurrectionist who might be my least favorite boss. It was hard at times to tell where exactly he was attacking, and he was the most bullet spongy. Didn't take the longest or the most tries, but I find him to be the least interesting. The next boss was V2 once again, but this time the fight was actually quite a bit easier. I didn't even need need to attempt a cheesing strategy, although I did attempt it, and it didn't seem to work anymore. Fighting him normally was much more effective. Perhaps he was just easier because at this point I was more familiar with the game, I don't know, but after you bring his health bar down to 0, he runs out a window and you chase him down the pyramid slope, and basically all you have to do is hit him consistently and you'll win. Not a bad fight, but weird how it was easier than the first one. I see what you're doing here, but my Gatling guns are faster! Or not! That was the end of Greed, and now in Wrath, the levels are water themed. There are these things that you can grapple onto, and as fun as it would be to whip around these things, there's apparently some downside to using them, revolving around health, but I never felt affected by it, so I'm not sure exactly what it was or what it meant. I'm also not good at any game that requires you to grapple and fight at the same time, so I typically avoided doing that and was able to deal with the enemies fine while doing that. I'd probably need to get good at it if I wanted to get a higher rank at the level's end though. The first boss in the water levels was the ferryman, who I still don't quite get. I kind of just dodged around when I thought I should and was almost able to kill him on the first attempt. I don't really know his patterns or what he does. I just know that he wasn't all that difficult, but still fun. With the ferryman down, I came to level 5-3. I'm pretty sure I'm now inside a ship or something. These levels weren't particularly difficult, but there was a power available in them that doubled my firepower. Hey, let's go. We love double guns. Yeah. And it was the best, most American thing I have ever experienced. I don't care if I actually hit anything, I just wanted to shoot twice as many bullets, and that made me happy. The second boss here is the Leviathan, who is the second boss I managed to beat on the first attempt, and it weirded me out. Why am I able to first try a boss this late in the game? And it's not because I'm that much better at the game at this point either. I just think this boss was the slowest and most predictable of the bunch thus far. I did rather enjoy the theming though. And now we're brought to the end of the game, level 6, Heresy. These levels lived up to their name. They threw hordes of enemies at me, including a wide variety of enemies that forced me to pick and choose my targets. Some of these enemy waves were much harder than some of the bosses, and that's not really a bad thing either. I expected things to get crazy at this point, and it sure lived up to my expectations. There was even one room with 2 hideous masses and one of the chainsaw guys and a bunch of other enemies that stopped my progress for quite a while. And at last, I'm brought to the second battle against Gabriel. I was hyped about this battle at first, as I rather enjoyed the first battle, but this one was considerably less satisfying. He was more difficult, and that was to be expected, but even after I felt I had a grasp on his pattern, I was never able to evade it or figure out a countermeasure for it. So there were many times I knew exactly what attack was next and the timing of all of it, but I couldn't dodge it. Occasionally it felt as though I was doing the same thing, but sometimes I would get hit and sometimes not. Looking back on it, this fight may require countering even more than the Corpse God did, and since I hadn't been using it the whole time, I'd forgotten to use a counter as I usually do. So, although the boss frustrates me, I'm not sure if my criticism is valid in any way, as it's probably my fault for not using the counter ring. And that was the first 2 acts of Ultrakill, which again were the only ones available at the time of playing the game. This was honestly one of the most fun games I've played in quite a while. I'm not sure I'd give it a 10 out of 10, but I would give it a 9 at the very least. I want to return to it, and I've heard that if you get the P rank on every level, then you unlock up to 2 other bosses and maybe some other weapons as well. As a reminder, I play all of these games totally blind, so the fact that there's more bosses or what have you hidden behind those ranks would never have occurred to me. I'm not a completionist in the least, but this game was so fun that I want to go back and possibly get the P ranks to see what more there is, but I want to make these videos by playing them as naturally as I normally would. I'm not really a gamer in how some people would define it, as someone who explores all the aspects of a game. I'm pretty much just a casual who only ever engages with the main meat of the game, only exploring what else there is to offer if the game made it particularly interesting to explore. And if there are secrets I missed, then, well, I missed them. I hope to give the view and perspective of games from the vantage point of some random Joe who sees a game on Steam, buys it, and plays it, and never bothers with Googling anything or engaging with the community, and rather plays it on the most raw level. With that said, I would definitely recommend Ultrakill. Please play it, it's great.